Hey guys, it's me, Anchor64, with another type of video. Again, this will be another warrior guide, but of course, this one is more relevant for leveling. So I want to give you 5 tips which you can use when you are leveling your warrior, and these could maybe help you to level a bit faster. Maybe you already known about them, maybe not. But yeah, I thought about why not make a short leveling kind of guide and yeah, maybe this could be useful for anyone. So because I leveled a lot of warriors when I played this game in classic throughout like different expansions, and yeah, I have a bit of knowledge that I can share with you. So if you like these kinds of videos, feel free to give me a like, subscribe. I also recently bought like a new microphone, so maybe you can already noticed my audio quality is a bit better. So I can hope that can help a bit with my accent and so on. So yeah, let's start with the actual video. However, so the first tip I can give you is while you are leveling, you should really focus hard on upgrading your weapons when you reach like certain levels. There are a lot of guides out there. You can just Google weapon progressions. Will also link you some in the description. But overall, our most important gear slot are our weapons. Why I said our weapons are of course doing damage, and of course they also have DPS. But yeah, what matters most for us is the damage and also DPS. And when we are doing damage, we get more rage. We can actually use our abilities and actually play the game. But that's why it's really important. When we are doing more damage, we can kill the enemies faster. We get less damage, so we take less damage, and we can pull more and more mobs, and so on. So yeah, that's really important. That's why we are hard focusing on weapons. We have the advantage, we are using rage, we don't have mana, so you have kind of an infinite resource we can use while leveling. That's why we really want to increase our damage gain. Most of the time, you will level as a two-hand warrior. If you like to level as a dual wield warrior or something like that, of course you can also do that. However, that's going to be more difficult. So the guides are mostly focused on two-hand weapons. As you already can see, there are a lot of different weapons you can choose at different levels. For example, level 3 you can buy this axe, you can get an copper battle axe while you are leveling, and so on. Even some staffs are considered, because staffs, maybe you didn't know about that, some of them have really high damage numbers and are pretty easy to get. For example, the Staff of Westfall has pretty nice damage numbers, even if it has intellect. And Spirit is also can be pretty useful for us because we have increased health regen. So yeah, take advantage of warriors being able to use multiple weapon types, and this will make your leveling a lot easier. Don't focus on like I need to get a really good chest, I need to get a really good helmet, legs, and so on. But my weapons are shit. So yeah, that's not really a good thing to do. Focus on your weapons first, and then for everything else, pretty much. So yeah, that's a tip I can give you. Go for really good weapons. Every couple of levels, look what you can actually get and try to upgrade them. So yeah, that's the first tip I can give you. More of a general one. So yeah, let's look at the second tip I can give you. I need to switch around and actually go in-game for that. So yeah, let me switch. Now I am in-game, and right now I am in the stockades because that's the easiest way to show you something. Right now I'm here on my warrior, and the second tip is going to be how you actually are pulling mobs and how you can use some tricks to make it easier to kill mobs in a row, for example. So as warriors, what you don't want to do is don't want to do don't want to pull multiple mobs at once, because we aren't the strongest AoE class and we get a lot of damage that way, and that's not really good. So instead, what we are going to do is we are going to pull one mob, kill them, save our rage. That's what I mean by pulling our rage. And then we are going to kill the next mob. And we're going to do that over and over and over. And if you do it smartly, you can do it without any downtime, or really like a slight downtime, and that's really fast actually. Um, so yeah, let me give you an example how you should maybe pull at the start. Like, of course, you use charge, and then you are using your abilities. But what you want to do is, however, as you can see, the enemy is low right now. I'm not going to use any abilities when the enemies are low, just at the start. Other than that, I'm just going to use my auto attacks, and then I'm saving my rage for the next enemy, and I can just pretty much like not really one-shot the enemy at the next one, but I can use all my abilities and they will be already low, and I can continue that. So that's the cycle you can do. What you shouldn't do is waste your abilities when the enemy is already low. No, don't do that. Just save your rage, gain some rage, and then use the rage on the next enemy, which has like full HP. So you don't waste any damage. So right now on this enemy, I can use this, and yeah, I can do that. Of course, right now I'm in the stockades. These mobs are really low level, but this is just an example I want to show you. Another thing, you can combine that with using bandages. So you have even a slightly lower downtime. Actually, not really slightly lower. Bandages are really broken for this tactic. So you can pull some mobs, maybe you are half HP, use bandages. You will still have a lot of rage, and then you can pull the next mobs and do that over and over and over again. That's why bandages are really important for warriors. They are way faster than just normal food, and it's also they also heal you from way more. So always try to top up on your bandages, especially while leveling. Always try to level your first aid. So yeah, this is the second tip I can give you: how you can pull your rage, how you should pull your mobs, and so on. So the next thing. So the next thing is more of a general one. When you are leveling, of course, you are going to unlock new abilities which you can buy from your trainer. However, not every ability is so you shouldn't buy every ability, of course. Some abilities we don't really use. They are not really useful for us, and they still cost a lot of gold or like silver when you are leveling. But yeah, we don't really use them, and that can be a waste of gold which you could rather spend somewhere else, which could help you a lot more. So yeah, actually consider which abilities you are buying. I will give you some examples. For example, ability which you shouldn't buy, which you shouldn't upgrade, for example. And yeah, that's one of the things you should consider. Like for example, we have like things like hamstring. Of course, buying hamstring is really important, but you don't want to buy higher ranks of hamstring because it's not really worth it for us. We are just using it for the slow, we are not really using it for the damage. So don't buy higher ranks of hamstring, for example. Okay, next thing, next tip I can give you. So this will be like the fourth tip. And is also related to the last tip I gave you, is the trap. Consider the trap of using Heroic Strike. When you are starting the game, you're pretty much going to have the ability Heroic Strike. So what does Heroic Strike do? Heroic Strike pretty much takes our auto attack and turns it into an like special attack. However, a really important thing is that it doesn't generate rage. How do we generate rage? We generate rage when we are getting attacked and when we are using our normal auto attacks or white hits. So what does it mean? Let me go into here, let me attack this guy. And as you can see, I'm doing like white attack damage and I'm generating rage. So yeah, what happens if I use Heroic Strike now? Yeah, as you can see, I don't generate rage and I'm losing rage. Of course, I'm doing more damage, but especially at the start, that is going to be a really big problem for us. So we don't use Heroic Strike at the beginning at all. There's only one specific situation when you would use Heroic Strike, and that's when you have really a lot of rage and you use all your other important abilities already. Then we can use Heroic Strike. So also another thing, which sounds kind of weird, don't buy Heroic Strike upgrades from your trainer. So that's another thing while you are leveling. Because you are not really going to use Heroic Strike, you will have more important abilities, and that's the thing which would be a lot of gold spent, like wasted on Heroic Strike, which you are not really want to use. So for example, what should we use at the start? What are some abilities I can give you a tip also about that? What would be abilities you should use at the start? So one really important ability especially like really early at the beginning, is actually rent. So now maybe some people will disagree with this, and a lot of people are saying like rent, why are you using rent? It's like not doing any damage at all and whatever. They are wrong. Rend is one of the most cost efficient abilities we have in the game, especially really, really early. Of course, when you are a bit higher level, you're not going to use Rend at all because the damage pretty much has fallen off. It's not really worth it. But at the start, especially right when you can unlock Rend from the vendor, from the trainer, it's really actually really useful because it's cheap, it does a good amount of damage, and it's way better than heroic strike because it doesn't eat our auto attack, so we can still generate rage. So how would your like really early rotation look like? It would kind of look like this. You would let me find an enemy, um, or maybe I better can explain it. Whatever. So you would just charge an enemy. You would use Rend, and then what you would use is another really good ability. Um, Let me look. Yeah, Thunder Armor. You would use Thunder Armor actually. So you are just auto attacking, your Rend dot is ticking, and you are just using Thunder Armor. And that's what you would be using. And then if you have a lot of rage, like really a lot, like 70, 80 rage or whatever, and the enemy has still a lot of HP, you can use Heroic Strike. But other than that, you would use Rend at the start and then just use Thunder Armor, and that's pretty much would be your rotation at the start. Sounds kind of weird, but that is the best rotation at the start actually. There are multiple things why this is the best rotation. I can explain it. First of all, like I said, Rend is really cheap. It does good amount of damage early. So yeah, it's pretty cheap for the amount of damage it does. Another thing, Thunder Armor gives us a benefit. It costs 15 rage, so it's also pretty cheap. It decreases the enemy armor, so our attacks are doing more damage. And overall, the most important thing is we are still generating rage. The gameplay of where people are using heroic strike and such are only really worth it if you're fighting one enemy and need to burst them as fast as possible. So yeah, that's not the thing we want to do when we are leveling. Like 80% of the time, for example, when we are questing, we are fighting mobs in a row. So we are fighting one mob, then we are fighting another mob, and so on. And when we can actually save rage from one mob to another, we can use this tactic to, moreover, make it easier to save up rage. So yeah, that's basically how you would use, how you would level warrior at the start. You rend, use thunder armor, and pretty much kill the mobs with just auto attacks and your rend damage, and then you go to the next enemy and do the same. So yeah, that's actually pretty nice and fast way to do it. And you don't really want to use abilities like, for example, heroic strike. Sorry. So yeah, that's one thing. So that was some of the tips I could give you. Now let me talk about the last tip I can give you. For that one, I can pretty much go outside. So the last tip I would give you is use consumables, and another really easy thing, grab a world buff. So right now we are in phase 4. So we have 2 world buffs that are really, really easy to get. 3 if you are Horde. Yeah, if you are playing on Horde, you even have 3 that are really easy to get. But of course, the first one we have is Dragon Slayer. Right now I have Dragon Slayer booned, so I can't really show you that one. But yeah, that would be one. You can just stand AFK in the city, in Stormwind or in Orgrimmar, and you will 100% just get Dragon Slayer, and you can use that pretty easily for leveling. Dragon Slayer is really broken, it just gives you a base 140 attack power. As you can imagine early, that is really insane for leveling, especially for a warrior because we get more rage and we can use more abilities. Another one we can also really easily get, that is more important if you are a bit higher level, like in your 30s, you can go to Booty Bay and get the Spirit of Zandala buff, which is also even really useful for leveling because it even gives us some movement speed. So even before we have a mount, we have some movement speed increases. So that's also really useful. The third one is really easy to get for Horde. which is War Chief's Blessing, which would be another world buff you can get. I don't have that one right now, but because for Alliance it's really difficult to get, but for Horde they can also stay in Orgrimmar and also get this one, that one, and they can use both for leveling. So especially early levels, like if you just started the game, you can even just go to Stormwind, maybe you are lucky and get a world buff, Dragon Slaying, and maybe you even get both, and you can just have a way easier time leveling. So yeah, that would be my last tip I could give you. Also, of course, I forgot to talk about it. Also consumables. There are some really cheap consumables that's what I actually wanted to do, where I wanted to go outside. For example, we have um, no, is it not called that? Mm, yeah, for example, this one is really cheap, or kind of cheap, maybe too expensive at the start. But we have some kind of cheap consumables you can use. You can even use this one, like troll potions, which are kind of cheap. And we have a lot of kind of cheap consumables we can use while we are leveling. If you picked up alchemy at the start as your profession, you can even make some potions, which could also help you leveling. So yeah. Um, Overall, these were some of my tips, some of the tips and tricks you can use while you are level, which can maybe help you or not. Maybe you already known about these tips. So yeah, but I wanted to make a short guide, and that's pretty much it. If you want me to make a more comprehensive guide about warriors, feel free to comment. I will probably make one, but yeah, that's going to take some time. It's will be a lot longer than this one, and yeah. However, if you like these kinds of videos, feel free to like, subscribe, and so on, the usual stuff. And I will see you on the next video. Have a great day. Bye.